Great, welcome. Um, Today's topic is living into the questions together. I wanted to keep it pretty broad because we are all holding very different kinds of questions depending on where we are, what kind of work we're doing, what our centers are up to. Um, I'm holding some specific questions around RCC right now at this time. As we turn into a new year, right now we have funding for the next 6 months, but beyond that is more of a question mark. What else will RCC be moving into that will fund us in new ways? So we have lots of plates spinning in the air that could turn into new work. And I know that at many of our centers, there are some big questions about how to maintain the quality of operations as many other changes are upon us around the market and hiring and compensation and all these things, many different questions about where retreat centers are. And I had an email today from some centers that are curious how to move into a new governance model with a board that they have not had before. So there's those kind of questions out there too. So just to name, there's a wide range of places we're all coming in from. We can start the call today with, actually, I don't have it pulled up, so it'll take me a second to grab it, but with some community agreements that sort of frame these types of conversations, our community calls, which we do twice a month. These are spaces that are collaborative, that are peer support, that allow us to learn and listen from each other, but also to share. So there's kind of both sides of the coin in these conversations. And I always like to remind folks of how we're shaping these so that you feel more comfortable and confident to participate as the call continues. So let me share a couple of slides here. Yeah. Screen sharing is paused. Okay, it's not letting me share here. Let me try this again. Technical difficulties, my goodness. There, that is what I was trying to do. These are the core values of the RCC. So I like to name these before our calls start. The power of place and space. I feel like that's really inclusive. Talks about a lot of different kinds of spaces. They could be urban, they could be rural, they could be overnight, they could be just during the day. But something about the power of the land that helps us to do this work, the power of intentionality of how the space is held, power of facilitation, all these pieces that play into the organizations that we all represent. The interplay of inner and outer work, that it's both sides of that coin in our community. And then the commitment that we are sharing about universal flourishing, that it's larger than just my betterment or growth, and that it's larger than just the human world, that this expands to the world around us, to all our relations. We're a community of practice for retreat center leaders and their allies. So there are folks here who are maybe not with a retreat center or are imagining one or use retreat centers in various ways. So I like to highlight that. And then the agreements are speak from your own experience. Your voice and your story are important. We are all knowers and learners. So there's the two sides there of you may have things to share that you didn't realize that are really special and unique and informative to the rest of us. And then we're all here to learn as well. Both silence and sound are centering practices. And so we use both of those and sometimes movement too in these calls and in various workshops and webinars that we do here at RCC. We encourage you to share what you learn in these calls, but to keep folks' individual stories confidential. Sometimes in these calls, we'll even stop the recording for 10 minutes and have a little more in-depth conversation so that we can really get personal and vulnerable, because that's important. And that's how you build trust, and you can't collaborate if you don't trust each other or know each other. So we try to make sure that those spaces are flexible. And if you feel like there's something you want to bring up, but it's a little touchy, please ask Aaron or I to pause the recording. We're happy to do that. It's an invitational space. So if you need to hop off and take another call, or if you can only come for part, we welcome you to participate as you're able. Around ability to participate as you're able, and we're trying to make it as easy, convenient, welcoming, accessible of a space as we can. So if there are other ways that we can improve that, please let us know. We've been working on various aspects of that, so there's always more we can do. Holding discomfort with grace and deep listening. We're not all on the same page a lot of the time, it turns out. So how can we hear each other's stories and listen deeply, knowing that we're not here to fix each other, but here to be with each other. And then I like to share this quote from Dr. Leticia Nieto: choice is the smallest unit of liberation. And so really holding this invitational space with the idea that as many choices as we offer, each one of those allows us to come in a more liberatory way. Yeah, that's a unique kind of space that we're not in all the time. So we're excited to be able to hold a space like that. Stop sharing, and that will go off the side of my screen, maybe never to be found again. Somehow I'll have to get back over to where that is. Let me do this, go here. I've given you a welcome and some agreements. You know a little bit about the flow of the topic today. I wanted to start with a little bit of grounding in retreat centers to help us think about our own spaces and where we're coming in from. And so I have a poem to share with you to help us kind of land in the work that we do, the work of retreat centers, which we feel is so important. So this is a poem. I can actually share the link to this in the chat. It's about halfway down, so you do have to scroll. But this comes from Shannon O'Dowell, and it's about spiritual direction or holy listening, this honor of sitting with another person and listening to them as they recount what they're going through. So it's called This Is the Part. I might read it once and then I might ask someone else to read it. It's always so helpful to hear it in another person's voice. This is the part where I shove aside what was urgent 5 minutes ago. Whatever it was, it can wait, because this person in front of me needs my attention now. I take a deep breath. This is the part where I check the box of tissue and close the door and make myself still. This is the part where I listen to words, silence, sounds caught in the throat, the long ago child who doesn't have words. This is the part where there are no words. I hold silence like a bird that will shatter with the cold. We breathe as if we're just learning, one slow count at a time. This is the part where I say, you will live, you will not die from this. This is the part where I let go. No magic words, no lasting touch. This is the part where I trust what has happened between us and through us, and then let go. And this is the part where I have no part. That one is hard for me to read without crying. That gets me. Anybody else up for reading it? Hi, Nancy. I'm glad you're here. You just popped in, didn't you?
I can read it, Ben.
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks.
This is the part. This is the part where I shove aside what was urgent 5 minutes ago. Whatever it was, it can wait, because this person in front of me needs my attention now. I take a deep breath. This is the part where I check the box of tissue and close the door and make myself still. This is the part where I listen to words. Silence, sounds caught in the throat, the long ago child who doesn't have words. This is the part where there are no words. I hold silence like a bird that will shatter with the cold. We breathe as if we're just learning, one slow count at a time. This is the part where I say, you will live. You will not die from this. This is the part where I let go. No magic words, no lasting touch. This is the part where I trust what has happened between us and through us, and then let go. This is the part where I have no part.
Thank you, Aaron. From there, I wonder if we might do some intros around the room and just share what we're bringing into this circle. Maybe a little bit about yourself, your name, your organization, maybe the lands you're coming in from, and then a phrase, a sentence about what you're holding, how you're arriving. I can start. My name is Ben. I use he, him pronouns. I live and work in Grand Rapids, Michigan, so West Michigan, Anishinaabe land here. And I am holding the turn of the season really strongly right now in my body, in my household, expectant, this one thing closing, another thing starting.
Well, my name is Claire Anderson. I'm the executive director at Sienna Retreat Center on Lake Michigan, the unceded territory of the Potawatomi people. You know, I came today because I think there's so much on my plate that it feels like only the biggest, most important things can get my attention right now. And for me, one of the biggest, most important things is asking the biggest, most important questions. So Tuesdays are always a tough time to break away and to be part of this call, because Tuesdays around here are just, they have their own dynamics. But when I saw the title of this call, I thought, that's one I have to be at, and I need to tell the entire staff I'm going to be on the Zoom call, because I think in the conversations I've been in my position for 12 years, and there are people who come and ask, Claire, is this normal at Retreat Center? You know, how do we handle this? How do we, so it's been interesting to hold other people's questions too. And I'm very grateful to be here. Thanks.
Hey everybody, Andrew Swordloff. Great to be here, and thank you for including me. I'm probably the newer face amongst all. I was fortunate to find a retreat center place in my life 3 years ago when I was going through some things in terms of life circumstances, and I did a 5-day Vipassana. I was Prior to that, I would have not been the type of person to have done a silent retreat or undergone a lot of the transformation that I've had in the last few years. But I've really, it's one of the most remarkable experiences for me and something that has helped me in a lot of ways. So it's great to be part of this, and from that retreat center I go to, the owners actually had introduced me to this organization. It's Big Bear Retreat Center, and I earlier this year I ran a startup for about 4 years, and kind of had my silent retreat. And on the retreat, I was on like a 12-mile hike by myself in the woods during winter. And it's amazing, obviously, what silence and spaces like this can do. And it sort of hit me that I've been in real estate for a lot of years, and my love for retreat centers, and I literally kind of had this moment of realization that maybe this is something I wanted to do. So I've made the very hard decision to back away from my startup and a lot of responsibilities and a lot of different things. And it's been an amazing year, but a hard one in terms of literally like going into a business plan mode and trying to learn more about retreat centers and cultivate a lot of things that I've learned, but from a very early point of view, from mindfulness to kind of what to create within a retreat space. And so I'm just grateful to be part of this call. I've kind of written this business model for about 5 months now, and put an offer on something in a place that's close to me. So we'll see where it goes. But honestly, just excited to meet everybody for the first time and contribute what I can to the space. And just learn from everybody.
Hi, Nancy Askins. I'm the executive director at the Center of Renewal, which is a retreat center at Stella, Niagara, New York. We're sponsored by the Sisters of St. Francis of Penance and Christian Charity, Holy Name Province. I've been here 18 years, and our retreat center on January 1st is going to be celebrating its 50th year in retreat center ministry. So we're really looking forward to that. The Native American influence that we have in Western New York actually recognizes the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, and honors the sovereignty of the 6 nations, which is Mohawk, Cayuga, Onondaga, Oneida, Seneca, and Tuscarora. Tuscarora Reservation is just a few miles away from us, and this whole area was primarily Seneca and Tuscaroran. And I guess we're going through some traditional or some transitions very similar to a lot of other retreat centers post-COVID. Takes a little time to get back in gear. Unfortunately, we've had, over the 3 years of COVID, a number of the groups that have repeatedly returned kind of self-selected out because of age and being concerned about being around other people, so they chose not to come. And then 3 years went on, and they were older to begin with, so they're that much older. But luckily, we have had some other groups that have discovered us, so that's really where we're focusing. And I'm always just pleased to join in with RCC and different approaches to give us a different perspective of a retreat center. And I look at the times here with RCC as a time to kind of back up from the day-to-day operations, and yet, this is going to sound funny, but still do my job. Still be able to engage with people and to get ideas and learn from them, both on the online as well as at the wonderful conference that we just had last month or a couple months ago. So that's kind of where we are. Behind me is our labyrinth, and we had snow on the ground when that was taken. We are 10 miles north of Niagara Falls, New York, and 30 miles north of Buffalo, but we get about 50 inches less snow than Buffalo does, believe it or not. that picture was taken on a day when we had some snow. So that's all for me.
Okay, I'm happy to go next. My name's Allison Kaisia. This is my first meeting. And I landed here because I got connected with Ben a year ago. I think it was like literally like right before Christmas we talked. I was at my dad's house, I still remember. So it took me a year, but better late than never. I also wanted to come because it's 12/12, and I just believe so much in these kind of like manifesting magic. And the topic, today, just reflecting, I was like, okay, this is it. I live on Manahoac land in Northern Virginia. I'm right outside of Washington, D.C. And a couple years ago, I'm an artist. I made 99 clay vessels to represent the 99 names of God in Islam. I'm Muslim. And I used those to inspire this whole online retreat program during COVID for 99 Muslim women. It took 2 years. You can see the whole thing at 99clayvessels.com. But that has inspired now this new project I'm working on, another retreat program with Muslim women, and then this super ambitious project to create the first retreat center in the world dedicated to the empowerment of Muslim women. And shockingly, this does not exist. So I'm creating it. And yes, good to be with you. I can't wait to learn from all of you.
Woohoo! Just feel like we need to make a sound. That's awesome. Thank you, Allison.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll go next. My name is Sarah Lynn, and I'm the executive director at Guest House. We're a retreat and conference center in Chester, Connecticut. And we are on Wangunk land here in Connecticut. And what am I bringing to the call today? I think just curiosity. Like I felt like I just wanted to be with everyone and hear what's going on in other people's community and so forth. We're just, we have one more retreat this year, this weekend, and then we're going to have some quiet time through the end of the year, which our staff really appreciates. So even if a lot of it is spent deep cleaning and repairing and, that sort of thing, and then we'll have holiday time with our families, but it is, we kind of need some time for ourselves. It's I think sometimes we underestimate what it really means for our staff to hold the space for so many different groups all year long, and so they need some holding too and some restoration. So we're just looking forward to that time. And I was thinking about how this evening the moon will be moving into Sagittarius. We're already in the Sagittarius. Sun is in Sagittarius. It's just such a time of creativity and opportunity. So be interesting to see what the rest of this year brings to us, So just happy to be here with all of you.
I'll go next since I'm a Sagittarius that just celebrated her birthday. My name is Rebecca Mickler. I am the Assistant Executive Director at the Villa Maria Education and Spirituality Center. We are located a half of a mile from Ohio, but in Pennsylvania. So it's kind of between Cleveland and Pittsburgh. If you see the state line, we are literally right there. And it's nice because I grew up not too far from here, about a mile away. And so I live by my parents a mile from work, and I absolutely love it. So I guess I'm the closest thing to being in residence as possible. So let's see, what am I bringing to this call? I guess a couple things as mentioned before, we are winding down. We're doing our holiday cards and our last few events are next week. Thinking of how I want to do some purging in the office and getting ready for 2024. And also we're putting out our big marketing brochure, but my biggest, I guess, maybe challenge that I have is like how to try new things at work when you feel like you're always going against the tide of the old way. And so I find that, my expertise, my 20 years before coming to the villa, and I'm going on almost 2 years being here, has been all higher education. And so it's trying to encourage people that, yes, I have the skill set to bring to work and some new innovative ideas that I hope to try to execute in 2024 if possible. So that's me. Creative new ideas, my friend. Maybe I'll bring some creative new ideas.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Hi, I'll go real quick. I just realized I have another call I need to hop off, so I'll do that and come back. But I'm Robin. So lovely to be in virtual community with all of you and hear your powerful stories and perspectives. I guess could be under the affiliate of RCC. I'm starting up a new retreat experience with a business partner and have really found these meetings over the last few months to be not only inspiring, but so great to understand in some ways how the other half lives in terms of I'd be looking to maybe host my, experience with some of you that have centers and just understanding your day to day, what you're about, kind of how you're approaching the work, what challenges you have, is educating me and also allowing me to have that much more empathy and understanding about your ecosystem so that I can come in with that knowledge and have hopefully a spirit of reciprocity and compassion as we kind of talk through how to maybe work together. And so I'm just really appreciative of RCC, particularly Ben, for welcoming me with open arms and always kind of just, I don't know, having my heart filled after these meetings. So I'm here coming from Monopoly Land in New York State right now. I'm usually on Chumash territory in California and can't wait to circle back in about 20 minutes. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Robin. And thank you everyone for those shares. So many shares. Erin, do you want to go?
Sure, yeah, I can just give you a little introduction. I'm Erin McCauley. I'm the RCC admin assistant. I use she, they, any pronouns. My little spiel is I like to tell people if you need to practice using alternate pronouns, you can feel free to use me as your subject. I don't feel particularly attached to any of them, so I won't be offended no matter what you use for me. So yeah, you're welcome to do that. And then today, well, actually, right at this very moment, I am bringing to this call the sun beaming in directly on my face, even though, my blinds are closed. So you might see me dodging and weaving to avoid the sun coming in on me. But more seriously, I feel like I'm holding space for the land around me. The land around me is really speaking to me the last few days, and especially the animals. We've had a lot of stray cats running around the neighborhood that are new, and I've been fretting about whether or not they have people to take care of them. We have a buck that's been injured, that's been wandering around the neighborhood with a broken leg, and there's not much we can do to help him right now. So I'm kind of I'm bringing that with me a little bit because it's affecting me, and it feels like the land is asking for attention and care and nurturing of the other companions and creatures that we share the world with. So yeah, just bringing that awareness to what we have to talk about today. Yeah, thank you.
You. So I thought the next couple steps here could be a little bit of time set aside to journal, to kind of gather our thoughts about the work we're each doing in our own spheres. I have a little framework for that we can use. And then to go into small groups, we're already a fairly small group, so we might divide in half, especially if Robin comes back. Or we might just do it in this small group here to hear some of what came out of that journaling and compare notes on themes or insights that we hear from each other. And then to move into some like little bit bigger picture, what inspiration have you encountered around your work? Maybe what inspired you out of your time with RCC? Looking on the interpersonal relationships that we've built across this community. Like, for example, myself with Dr. Nancy, I was at Dr. Nancy's birthday party this year and I danced and had cake. And like, I didn't know that we were going to do that this year, but we did. Woo! And so there are just some moments I think that some of us have shared that it might be nice to just name, even if they aren't folks who are on this call, but folks that we met through RCC. It'd be good to kind of name that for each other, and then look a little bit at what might be next for us. So that's the arc that I have. If there are other things that we want to spend a little time on, I'm open to that. And I would especially say after we do some sharing in small groups, it would be great if there are a couple questions that folks are bringing that they want to hear insights on, especially for the couple folks who are newer to the calls. I'd love to hear your voice some more, and like, what are you chewing on? What's really alive for you? And I think the rest of us would really benefit from hearing that too. So I want to kind of put that into the agenda as it's written now. For the invitation to journal, I think I can give a little framework here that I received from a spiritual director that I worked with for maybe 3 years. And someone on the call, I'm sure, knows this and can tell me where it comes from, but the rose, bud, and thorn, where you look at your day, for example. We use this at the dinner table. So my 9-year-old now actually turns it back on us and tells us that we need to answer the questions. What's your rose, bud, and thorn for today? So the rose is, something that went well or something you're excited about, something beautiful. The bud is something that you're not sure what it's going to turn into. It could be something great, or it might not, but you're curious about it. So something you're curious about. And the thorn is something that really didn't go well, and you need to kind of just get it off your shoulders, off your chest. For my 9-year-old, something happened on the playground, and having this rosebud thorn framework gives her a chance to bring it up and say, this didn't go very well. And it actually gives my wife and I a chance to think, like, did I have a thorn? Yeah, I have a big thorn, and I would like to say it out loud. I actually need to say this out loud, and then the evening goes better having said it. So I would encourage you to look at your work at your center or your work with the program you're developing, and take the rosebud and thorn as an invitation to talk about what's working. And you want to kind of call in more of that, to look at what's not working that you want to let go of. That would be the thorn. And then to look at what you're deeply curious about, the bud that has not bloomed and will not bloom for a while, but there could be something really special there. And I would say 8 to 10 minutes here. I have some music queued up that I can play, and we'll just kind of do some of our own writing to lay some of that out, with the idea that then we can bring some of that to each other, and you can put it into words too, if you want. So that's an invitation piece. Any questions, other ideas? Claire, you keep smiling. Any other, adjustments to that? Okay, let's do it.
Come in. We're on a journaling exercise. Oh, good thing.
Let's do about 3 more minutes here. Give you a few seconds here to kind of finish up your thoughts. And I want to also name, as I was doing a little writing, I was feeling the combination of things that are really personal and kind of subtle, and then things that are really organizational and maybe even systemic that are a thorn or whatever it is, and kind of encouraging us to be able to go between those scales. So if you want to name something that's really might be pretty small, but to you it feels important, I think it's great to hear that from each other. And then the big stuff that we don't have much control over is still good to say out loud. This is something I'm noticing. Anybody interested in sharing some things that came up for them? I'm gonna open it up to a discussion if we have some things.
I guess, Ben, I'll start. Definitely a year for me of a lot of letting go and acceptance, which has been very hard. I think for me, in terms of just the letting go, the realization that a retreat center, building one, and sort of the vision I have for a space, a lot of it coming from my experiences with being in retreats. I think it's been a lot this year to just come face to face with the fear of that, because there's a lot of uncertainty behind that. There's a little bit of audacity behind that, and I've always been entrepreneurial, but honestly, every morning I wake up and I kind of have to take 10 to 15 minutes to meditate, to reestablish myself and fight through another day. And so I think just allowing myself to have the ability to sit with that and really feel through that, and also have compassion for the fact that it is something really scary to kind of give up your old life and kind of pursue something that is purposeful, which I've had glimmers of, but this is the first time in my life where something is called to me in a very purposeful way.
Well, the roses for me are the work and the people. I just have the pleasure of working with such fantastic people who are so committed to what we do and why it's important in the world. Our board, our staff, our retreat leaders, to be surrounded by those folks, it's amazing. There were some thorns. That's for sure. And it seems like everybody's life just seems to be in such a state of flux that we have a couple staff people who have either recently left their position. We have one open position right now, and all wonderful people doing wonderful things, but just whether it's family commitments, personal commitments, and other aspects of their lives, they move on, and it's not like we have the funds to have this gigantic staff and all kinds of time. I'm jealous, Rebecca, I'm jealous of your office cleaning and Christmas card writing, because yeah, whenever somebody's out, and we also have another employee out right now, just needing to take care of a medical procedure. So, you know, when that happens or somebody has a day off, everybody's pivoting to cover all the other work. You know, so there doesn't seem to be any time for the buds in our reflection that what's budding. So just the staff turnover through no fault of this place, you know, everybody who comes here and works here says, this is just the most amazing place to leave, to work. I'm sorry to leave. But it's just people, it seems like people's lives are so fluid. And that's also the case, not just staff, it's the case for groups. Like, oh, we really thought we would have this December yoga retreat, but oh, oops, it turns out, no, we can't get the participation for this retreat. So can you move us on the schedule to next March, for example, you know, or just those kinds of people sign up for a retreat and need to cancel. Just the number of cancellations, it's exhausting to keep up with. Okay, now how many people do we have to run the retreat? Or now what does our food count need to be? Because we just had 46 changes, you know? So those are some thorns. And our margin financially is such that there isn't much of a margin. We're doing fine. We're making ends meet, but we're making ends meet. And so those are the thorns. What I'm sensing budding is something that I'm also dreading a little bit. And what's budding is some nascent collaborations, relationships with maybe not necessarily retreat centers. Some are retreat centers or spirituality centers, eco places, nature center type places and farms, justice entities. Those are some neat collaborations. And the reason why I'm dreading them a little bit is because I know how much time collaboration takes. And it's a relationship. So you need to listen. Like that poem that you read at the beginning, Ben and Aaron, you need to pause, you know. Another thing that I'm hoping is going to bud, I have dreamed for many years about a retreat facilitation training program here at the center, because we get inquiries from a lot of people asking, can you pick up our retreat and sponsor this retreat or that retreat, my retreat, whoever it might be. And we don't, there are a couple programs out there around the country that train retreat leaders, but they seem to be training retreat leaders to do a specific type of retreat or program that has a trademark on it or something like that. But as far as like learning to be a retreat leader, where do you go to get trained for that? So that's one of my dreams that is still taking a long time to bud.
Claire, thank you so much. I was totally immersed in what you were saying. If I can respond to the last thing you asked, and then I'll go back to mine, Ben, if you're okay with that. You asked about where do you learn to be a retreat leader? One of my degrees was in group and interpersonal communications, and learning how to be a facilitator. And that was, what, 50 years ago when I was in college, but now it's come in very handy. So we even have on our website that we will help put your meetings together, but if you also need a facilitator of your program, and I also specialize in core values and mission integration from my research. So I'm able to incorporate that with a lot of organizations. So I would encourage you to look to people who have a background in group and interpersonal communications. But as you were talking, I was thinking, I'd be happy to design a program with you, and we'll put something together and offer it to RCC. What the heck?
That'd be exciting.
Yeah. Going back to my notes, let me get back to my little journal here. I found myself looking at, because we're, again, as I mentioned, we're going into our 50th anniversary next year as a retreat center ministry. But the order that sponsors us, the Sisters of St. Francis of Penance and Christian Charity, next year they are celebrating concurrently their 150th anniversary. And this is also the 800th centenary as a Franciscan family. You look back to a lot of the things that St. Francis of Assisi did. The very first, it's Christmas season, the very first crest, the very first manger scene, that was from St. Francis. So there's just so many different fascinating stories, and we're hoping to incorporate all those in our various programs. But I found myself, instead of, as you can tell, I get rather wordy. Instead of writing long sentences, I find myself writing past and current and future. And under past and current, I wrote sustain and maintain, preserve and conserve. So we want to capture and retain the historical integrity that we've had over the years, while still acknowledging that things change and we have to adapt to that. So under the future, I found myself writing the words extend, strengthen, increase capacity, but I put a question mark after that, because the building's only as big as it is, so you can only go so far. But also flourish, and looking at ways to, and that's where we want to focus for next year, is incorporate the concept of sustaining, maintaining, preserving, conserving, and then going into the future, extend what we have out, strengthen that to make it stronger. And on increasing, we're also looking at increasing, I mean this with full due respect to all of the groups that come to all of our retreat centers. And Claire, you hit right on the nose. Have them appreciate what's necessary to do when they make a change, when they cancel last minute, when they, all different things. And those are some things that we're fighting. One of my operating philosophies has always been, when a policy or procedure gets in the way of effectively serving the customer, it may be appropriate to question the policy. So a lot of times we may be like our, tied together, shackled because of procedures. And sometimes we need to look for a more flexible way to deal with it. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but do we really want to turn away a group that's been there many years because they didn't make a certain time frame? If they have a cancellation, do we really want to lose their commitment to us? Because we want to be their retreat center of choice. And sometimes we have to adapt to that. So those are some challenges that we're going through. And I see some of you shaking your head. So obviously it's something that happens to a lot of us, but that's where we want to go. And we are so blessed by the sisters that help to sponsor us and the groups that we have. And there's only 4 of us on staff here. 2 full-timers, myself and our operations and guest services coordinator. And then we have a part-time bookkeeper, works about 10 hours a week, and a part-time hospitality assistant. However, for housekeeping, shared service, maintenance, food service, that's from a different part of the building, different part of the campus, and there's a shared services expense and allocation for that. So, but we're just blessed with this wonderful staff and very committed to our core values as well as the charisms of the sisters. So that's us for now.
I might jump in just briefly, Claire, about, well, both of you, about what you were saying about training facilitators, and just name this book, Holding Change by Adrienne Marie Brown, which is an emergent strategy, the way of emergent strategy, facilitation and mediation. Someone recommended this to me. I picked it up. I started reading it and I was like, this is what I do at RCC like every day. And this is what I see other facilitators, because we're all in some ways facilitators here. This is what I see all these other facilitators doing. And it was like it had been written out in a very clear way. Like, this is how to manage a group as they're going through reflection or as they encounter an obstacle to trusting each other, whatever it is. very, very inspiring. So I'd recommend that that be somehow incorporated in what you're thinking about.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks, Ben.
Also, you mentioned St. Francis, and I couldn't stop thinking about a film that I worked on a couple years ago. I was a curriculum writer for many years, and I don't know if you ever saw the film The Sultan and the Saint, but it's a story. It's this really incredible, like, interfaith story about St. Francis and his relationship with a Muslim leader in Egypt during the Crusades, and I love the story. And it's introduced St. Francis to lots of Muslim communities and just also introduces this, you know, little known piece of history. Anyway, maybe you'll want to see it if you haven't already.
It's amazing how much St. Francis of Assisi has really impacted so many cultures in the world. I'm glad you mentioned that. It's an excellent movie.
Okay, cool. You saw it already.
Yep,
Nice.
yep.
Well, I guess I can share. The rose, you know, I was just thinking, like, I never had any inkling of opening a retreat center. And literally it was 2017. I was working in this interfaith organization and went in really like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and oh my God, I get to share my faith and I'm so excited, and was treated just horrifically because I'm Muslim, and just really blindsided me. And I was completely heartbroken, and I was really pissed, and came home every night and I made these clay vessels because I just didn't know where to put all of my stuff. And I'm a clay artist, so I'm just always kind of giving it to the clay, you know, when I don't know what else to do. And like, you know, miraculously, I mean, I just look back over these years, and like, when I was making the vessels, I was just having this conversation with God, like, what's up? You know, I'm trying to follow the path. You put me in with these people and they're treating me like shit. And, you know, I don't know what to do, but you need to kind of give me some clearer signs here, because I'm doing the work and like the GPS is broken. And, you know, made these vessels. And then like literally during the pandemic, you know, the vessels were like talking to me and saying, you know, Muslim women are suffering and we held you during this difficult time. Create the vessel, you know, create the vessel so Muslim women can step into it and unload some of their stuff and remember their creative potential. And, you know, it all just kind of unfolded. And then it was in those conversations with the women who were like, wow, this is so powerful. Like, you can't stop, you know, you have to do this. And we want a brick and mortar place. And I'm like, what does that mean? And like every single retreat that we had, the women said the same thing. They said, don't stop, don't stop. And, you know, you're like, many of you are religious people. When you hear something repeated over and over and over again, you know, it's such a strong sign. And so all to say, like, there's been no resistance. It's like this whole idea just keeps unfolding. And it's really like, that's the rose, you know, because so much of our life is spent like, I feel like, you know, wrestling alligators. And, you know, so that's the rose. The bud makes me think, Andrew, about what you were saying. You know, we get these mind parasites that tell us we're crazy and insane. And, you know, the bud is like every day, like, how do I, you know, I wake up and I'm like, just feed the plant. Okay. Like, you're not, you know, you're not doing anything other than feeding the plant. So don't turn it into this like huge mountain, just feed the plant and keep it alive. And the thorn, you know, you'll all just shake your heads vigorously, but the thorn is fundraising. And like, oh my God, like, where's the money coming from? And I'm a seasoned fundraiser. Actually, I strangely love writing grants. I love talking to funders. And yet there's just this like never ending anxiety and fear and upset and worry about where's the money going to come from, and how do we make enough money that we're not, that we're treating ourselves with the respect that we need to be able to take care of ourselves. And so that's just the thorn, always poking.
Thank you, Ben, for bringing this thought of, the thorn and the rosebud too. My family does, sunny, stormy, and looking forward to. That's a little thing that my grandkids have. I don't know, it's some sort of little thing that they got, and it has like a disc, and you pass it around the table at dinner time, and we do that. So that's kind of fun. Reminded me of that. Yeah, so when I was thinking about, what am I calling in? It's just sort of, I don't know that it's something I've been doing intentionally. It's more like something I feel like is just happening to me. It's like just calling in wisdom and feeling like I'm not as willingly as I thought I would be, just starting to walk into like the archetype of the crone. It's like I'm at that time of my life, and it's happening to me, and it's unfolding. So it's just unfolding. It's coming to me, and and a lot of different things have sort of fallen in place around this. Like I just stumbled on this amazing local women's circle that I didn't know anything about. And so I've attended it a couple of times over the last couple of months, and I've just found it really nourishing to my soul. So various things like that, as far as just, I think that's what's calling in is wisdom. And things I'm kind of curious about and that I feel are like budding is interesting, because I keep feeling like I have this sense of incubation or almost like pregnancy, but it's unknown. Like I don't know what it is I'm holding. It's just this sense of getting fuller, and something is happening, but I don't know what it is yet. So that's been a wonderful exercise in not trying to figure it out, right? Just letting it be. It's going to show me when it's ready, what it's about. And as far as the thorn, I've had some really big things happening that are about letting go. Like I've had tremendous change in my life recently that's going to mean a lot of letting go and a lot of loss and upheaval. And it seems like outwardly anybody would, who knew the situation would probably be like, oh, that's terrible, but I'm really finding some incredible grace in it, and just ability to be flowing with it. And I honestly have to say, I think it's partly because of what we've been through in these last couple of years with COVID. It's like I learned something so deep about myself and my ability to be resilient and my ability to tap into what is needed in the moment. That I think, that was like this sort of big thing, right? It happened to each of us personally. It happened to our businesses. It was happening to the world. And, now there's something that's happening on a very personal level, but I'm still able to, take what I learned and what we all went through together and know, your needs are met in the same way from the same source, So I'm feeling quite peaceful actually and calm about that, which is surprising. And I think the only other thing I wanted to share, just because it popped into my mind when I was journaling, was last year, as we were at this time of year where I was preparing for the next year, and we try to do it in very practical ways and very spiritual ways. And I just kept getting this word, kintsugi. And I was like, where do I know that word from? I don't know what that means. And so I said, well, I've got to slow down and take the time to look this up. And I did. And of course, it's that Japanese art of repairing a broken bowl, like with gold and or silver. Sometimes they use different metals too. And in the end, they believe it adds to the beauty and that it makes it stronger. And so we decided to embrace that, like, as a theme for this year with our staff and anybody who we want to apply it in their personal life, to just be thinking about how we are rebuilding after quite, a challenge to our businesses. And a lot of us, COVID did big upheavals in people's lives and so forth. And so, so as I was writing this, I was just like, oh, I think that theme is going to continue into the next year, like it really is okay if, pardon me, if things break. It's okay if they break. It's all right. That's all.
Thanks, Sarah Lynn. I guess I'll go next. I think I'm one of the ones that didn't yet. So I guess I was thinking a little bit, like when I worked in higher education, I worked somewhere for 14 years. So if I had to say what my rose was when I was there, it was relationships. I'm a relationship person. When you're somewhere that long, you know people, you know who to go to. And so when I started formulating my rose, bud, and thorn for here, I looked at bud as more of my relationships, because I see relationships budding still, since I've only been here for about a year and a half. But what was interesting was my rose was my work-life balance. Like, I finally feel like that's flourishing. When I lived an hour and a half from work, be in the car for like almost 3 hours a day, 2.5 hours, 3 hours a day. Now with, 2 miles, 1 mile back and 1 mile, back home, I feel like I finally am at a part where I'm not having to put work in front of family. And I feel like they're fluid together. There may be times like tonight I'm here late, but mom's coming over, husband's coming home early from work, and it's working. And it finally feel like I'm at a place where I don't have to, where I could be a mom and I don't feel like I have to sacrifice that. So I feel like that's finally a part that's flourishing. So I'd say that's my rose. My buds, as I mentioned before, would be relationships. And again, I bulleted, so I didn't paragraph write either. I was like bullet, bullet, bullet. And I just think of a few things. One, because we are a ministry of the Humility Mary Sisters, there's 100 sisters left. About 35, 38 live on site. They seem to be coming back more home as they're aging, and they're coming back to the convent or to the assisted living or the apartments. And so as sisters are coming back, I'm starting to look at if they're coming home, and sometimes reluctantly, right? Because they're coming home and they're not where they've lived for 40 or 50 years. But how can we still allow those sisters to use their gifts, and not just at the Villa Maria, but specifically for the retreat center? So for example, I've become very good friends with one sister, Sister Winifred, where, she has the passion for young adult formation, yet I feel like that's a niche. We aren't really bringing young people back to the Villa Maria. But that's a passion she has. So again, conversations with her and next steps with her has been very important to me. Another sister, Sister Carol Joy, she worked to the point where in ministry out in Akron, about an hour away, where she was working with people who were going through like CCD, like becoming, going through their sacraments. And now she has their kids going through their sacraments. So she's been there that long that she was kind of hitting a second generation. So then you pull her from that environment she knows here, and how can we still involve her? And she's an illustrator. Her art is spectacular. So again, conversations with her of how we can tap into her. Again, it's a win-win. It's a win for us, but it's a win for them because they're able to still give their gifts in some way here. But then I also think of like board members or some of our people who come on retreat who now come back, and I'm knowing who they are now and thinking of how maybe their voice is the voice that would be heard better than mine, right? Which kind of evolves to my thorn is I'm still trying to navigate what my job is. And though my predecessor had the similar job or same job, and the description's the same, yet I've been told it's different. And so I struggle a bit because I wasn't here pre-COVID, and we are not back from, like, I've been told we're not back to like our pre-COVID numbers, yet we're not trying anything new. And so sometimes I feel like my ideas aren't listened to, but it seems like that's not just my feelings, that's multiple people who feel that way here. But after a while, when you express your opinion and you're not being listened to, at what point you just remain silent. And so I think that's my thorn now is, I don't want to fall into a silo of just being silent because that's not my nature. If you knew me, that's not me. So then it's like, okay, then if it's not my voice that's being heard, how can I use one of my buds or one of my other people to potentially pitch the same idea, and it might be appreciated better or listened to better? Because I don't want to get frustrated. So yeah, that's mine.
Has everybody shared? I think so. Yeah, there's a lot of pieces there. I can relate to a lot of that too. I feel like there's a lot that's relevant across our different settings. Yeah. Anything that I know we're limited on time here. We've got 9 minutes. I wonder if there are any pieces that folks want to just name briefly to say, hey, I heard this and it rang a bell for me. Something where you can kind of name where there's a connection.
Yeah, I'd like to just lift up the observation that the two folks on the call, Andrew and Allison, who are, and Robin, who was on the call earlier, who are looking at starting something new, trying something new, birth something into being, that really gives me inspiration. And the question that it leaves me with is, whoa, how can we help each other? Because your fresh ideas and your perspective of, oh my God, this is so needed, I think is would give me a boost anyway. And I don't know if I'm speaking for others who've been around. I can totally relate to the brick and mortar, like, oh my gosh, how are we going to do this? I thought that was a neat dynamic.
Yeah, I'll just piggyback a little bit. I've heard multiple newer center leaders approach me and say, can we put together some sort of mentorship program? And I have felt a little out of place being the matchmaker for one-on-one relationships. That seems just awkward. Like, how do I know what you really need in a mentor? And how do I really know what a mentor has to offer? But what someone else creatively offered to me this past week was, what about an open invitation to a group of folks who are on both sides, those who are willing to mentor and those who are willing to kind of share their questions as they begin to start, where those could naturally evolve out of that. So if there's interest in this circle around something like that, that is something that I'm considering for 2024. Great. And Claire, it's great for me to hear from you. That would actually help motivate me at my center. Like that's it's hard for me to know where folks land on that. So that's cool. Yeah, Andrew.
Yeah, Claire, thank you for your share. It's not the first time I've kind of gone in the entrepreneurial route, and so I think I've been crazy enough in my life to go through the roller coaster, and it's, man, is it hard. I mean, my last startup was pretty much everything you can imagine. I mean, but it does build resilience, and I appreciate Sarah Lynn sharing resilience. I mean, it's a hard one because I think it's a push and pull. I'm learning I've always been one in my life to sort of suppress a lot of my feelings, and it wasn't until a divorce 3 years ago that I learned that it is so necessary to find outlets and express emotion and be vulnerable and all that. So I went through a huge transformation. But what I wanted to share is, I'm 39. I would have not been, as I shared, somebody who would have been a big proponent of retreat centers, but having experienced the component of space and stillness and silence, it is, for me, one of the most powerful experiences I think a human being can witness. And, I'm coming at this from a challenging aspect because, my desire is to see if I can bring a lot of professionals and creatives, kind of to this space. And, I have tons of lawyer friends and finance friends, and I want it for my very close friends, but obviously, I don't proselytize. The goal is to just sort of, share right? Your experience and see if somebody latches onto it. But I personally believe that we are in a time where this is becoming more important than ever. And I think for me, I believe it's because of the pandemic. I think it was the first time collectively as a world every human being went through a very similar experience, and were forced to look at some really hard things that they had never really paid attention to because we are so constantly focused on doing. So, I just wanted to share that to hopefully just sort of build everybody up, because I do think I think physical space is so important in the world that we're living in, where we are so distracted, we are so disconnected, and the space to go to and really have sort of a container for a period of time, I think is something that is irreplaceable.
Yeah, I think I've used a phrase similar to that in a couple of my recent newsletters, like retreat centers are more important now than ever in these times of disconnection and trauma and violence and separation and polarization. I mean, there's just so many layers, polarization from each other, from the earth itself. Yeah, it's places that allow us to slow down and reconnect to ourselves, and then to each other, and then to the earth, and then to a spiritual reality that's bigger than us. So key. Yeah. Well, we have 2 minutes left. Aaron is patiently waiting to share an end of year review, and I don't know that we even have time for that. But so I think we might skip it. We've got it in the recent newsletter. So if you're on our mailing list, there's an end of year infographic with lots of information about the stuff that we've done this past year, and some reflection on what we're looking forward to next year. I've been really encouraged by the variety of perspectives on this call. Sort of like you were naming, Claire, the seasoned folks. I mean, Nancy talking about 150 years and 50 years. And then the folks where it's still a vision, or it's a new vision, And I'm here to cheer you on. I'm here to support you in any way I can. And Aaron and I will put our heads together about some kind of group next year for new and seasoned retreat centers to be in dialogue with each other. But I would wish for each of us happy holidays, happy turn of the year, happy solstice, and really look forward to being with you again next year. We've got all of our community calls kind of swirling. Some of them are nailed down. We're still looking for some facilitators. So if there's a topic that you're interested in talking about or in helping us talk about, feel free to reach out, and I'll be reaching out to folks as well. So grateful you're all here. And I think I might just let it be there with some space. If you have a few more minutes, I do have a song that I'd queued up to share with you all that I think is really lovely. But we can all kind of say goodbye here, and then I can put a song on and we can leave that.
Good idea.
Good to see you all.
Good to be with all of you today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
In prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here, and we rise. All of the children rise. Elders with wisdom rise. Ancestors surround us, rise. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In prayer, we're right here, and we rise. Up from the wreckage, rise. With tears and with courage, rise. Fighting for life, we in hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here, and we rise. Humbly hearted, rise. Won't be divided, rise. With spirit to guide us, rise.
That was great.
Woo!
Merry
All
Christmas to both of you.
Yeah,
Yes,
happy
Merry
holidays.
Christmas, happy holidays,
Yeah.
happy Hanukkah. Take care.
Absolutely. Bye-bye.